Hello, it's me again, second installation. This time I'm going to talk about family meetings. So to begin with, I want to get you guys thinking about how to manage a business. And would you ever do that without having upper management, talk to lower management, without having a collective place to gather and work out problems and work out frustrations? And it would just probably not work very well. So you are actually running a household, which is in some ways no different than running a business. Like there needs to be a place for collective conversation and that everybody's in it together. And that is the whole point of this, is giving kids experience to know how to work collectively in a group, as well as to get them involved in the family's decisions, that social interest, that Gemeinschaftsgefühl word that Alfred Adler came up with, is like, how do you get significance and people to feel and that they have ability to contribute, is you have to create a space for them to do that. So I know that it can be overwhelming to think about starting family meetings, and it was for me. I wanted to not do them and avoid them, even though I knew that it was important, and especially since I teach this stuff, I wanted to have practice at it. So I put it off for a while, and then it eventually became the best thing I ever did, and I'm so grateful that I did it. So I really want to make sure that you give it a try and not let overwhelm get to you. And you can do it in small stages and chunks. So let's see, what's my notes here? Oh, let me first establish what it is not. Imagine if you go to a child and you say, we're having a meeting. What do you think they're going to say? You're going to tell me what I'm doing wrong, or lecture me. And I remember my daughter saying, meeting? She didn't like the sound of that. And she was like 3 at the time. It is not a time to go into any kind of lectures or any kind of, we're having a big problem here and I need to express myself. It is not a time for the adults to take the lead. You got to get buy-in, that the kids need to see and trust that this really is something that they have an equal chair at the table. And so you need to kind of let them take the lead for a little while, and then you can start asserting your more equal leadership. So some things that you can do in these preschool years to build some skills to have better meetings, because you'll have better meetings on down the road when they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on in that end. This end, you're doing a lot of setting up the stage and getting some skills in place so that a meeting can go well. So communication skills. So hopefully on a daily basis, you are practicing good communication skills. You are having I statements. Well, I feel like, or I wanted to share, and then you're also practicing listening skills. So letting the child talk and you listen, and then you say, okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is. You also want to just practice gathering solutions, because at a family meeting, you're going to do a lot of gathering solutions. So just when something comes up and like, who's got an idea here? Or how should we fix this? Or what's your idea about how we can make amends? Or get the conversation practiced on a daily situations, so that when you go to a meeting, it's not something new. And practice compliments too. And you can just do this during dinner time, where you just practice giving an appreciation, because that's part of a family meeting as well. So what I did with my kids early on, when they were very, very young, even before they could talk very much, and I had a gratitude journal. Here's my journal. And I would just say, what made you happy today? And then I recorded it and dated it. So there's lots and lots of stuff written. And now it's just this really fun thing that we get to look at back at, very nostalgic, of things that they said when they were 2 or 3. But it began this practice of that we gather together, we share a meal, and we have a conversation, and have eye-to-eye contact, because eventually down the road you're going to want to do that for a family meeting. You can have your meeting any time of the day, it doesn't matter, but a lot of people do it around dinner time, and that's when I chose to do it. So let's see, what else do I want to say? Getting buy-in. So a good way to get buy-in is that you keep it extremely short, the first few of them, and that just a collective decision, just practice appreciations, and then maybe a simple decision about what you guys, let's pick something to do this Saturday, and here's 3 ideas, and then people get to vote on them, and the child gets to vote. So some of the parameters are, it's by consensus, when you vote on things. It's not by majority, because we want to have everybody to feel important and significant, and they don't if they're constantly voted out. So if there's not a solution, then you table it and you come back to it, and then we'll keep hacking away at it until we get something that everybody can say yes to. So a simple meeting would be, we share appreciation. So it could be thanks for setting the table. That was very helpful. Thanks for putting your shoes away when I asked you. Or that was really fun today at the park. Something simple like that. And then you can invite your child to compliment you, and depends on how big your family is. You could have them just compliment one person. If it's a small family, it was just me and my 2 kids by the time I was doing family meetings, and we did both. One person complimented the other 2. It's not something you force. If someone says they want to pass, totally let them pass. It's silly to say compliment your sister, like that's not going to go well. So, and at times my son would just pass and he just didn't want to say anything. And sometimes kids do that when they're mad about something else. So it's just their rebellion, and you just like, okay, but you can still compliment them. I still would compliment my son, or appreciate him, even though I didn't want to, because I was mad that he wasn't participating, but I was the bigger person. So practice some appreciations, thank yous, and then have one simple thing that they vote on. What do we want to do after dinner? Do you want to have a dance party? Do you want to have a pillow fight? Or should we have a read-a-thon and read as many books as we can? It's good to have some idea, especially for little kids, not just what do you want to do after dinner. It's nice to have 3 things that you can automatically already agree to, because you've already thought them through, because it doesn't take that much time. I have the energy for it. So if you just put it open, what do you want to do? They may say, let's build a fort, let's get out all the pillows, and you're just like, no, I'm not up for that. So, but if they do suggest something that you don't want to do, it's always fine to say, that's an interesting idea. It won't work tonight, but let's put it on our calendar for tomorrow morning or this weekend or whatever. Find a way where you can say yes to it. So it's just simple things like that. And then you call it a meeting. But it's really important to get a book, by the way, because you're going to forget what you decided and what the issues were. As you start to get more practice, as buy-in, and the kids like, oh, I like family meetings. I get to decide things. I like this. And so it was probably by the 3rd meeting or so that it got a little bit more structure to it. So I had a whiteboard that I set up in my kitchen, and it was the family meetings agenda. And so when things would come up during the week, such as one child coming to me reporting on the other one, she's always and he's always bugging me or whatever, or there's just some kind of conflict I notice that keeps coming up, same again and again, fights over toys or whatever, then I would write that on the board. Or if they came to me and said, he's always taking my toys or always in my room and I don't want him to, I say, shall we put this on the agenda and talk about it on Saturday or Monday or whenever I had my meeting? Yes, they were very excited. And then they would stop talking about it because they knew that we would have a follow through. Super, super important that you follow through. Don't just write these agenda items down and say, yeah, we should get to that meeting. It's super important to be, again, this goes back to routine and structure. Make sure that you pick a time when the family meetings will work and then you stick to it. Some families do it once a week. I did it every other week, whatever works best for your family. And then you do address it. So then the child begins to trust you and trust that things will get managed. It's sort of like, when you're at work and you're like, people write up stuff because there's a problem and we write it up, and then eventually it's like, well, nothing ever happens. So then you just really roll your eyes at the process. So we want your kids to really trust that you will address it and will come up with a solution. And then they gladly write it down and let it go because they trust it's going to be addressed. So at some point I had simple little things, and I think I finally put something down, and that was kids, and I know because I wrote it in my journal. I can look it up. I wrote down kids keep taking showers and they would just leave their towel in the middle of the floor of the bathroom. So then we brainstormed first I asked, I'm wondering why this is happening. Can you tell me more information? I'm wondering what it is. And my daughter said, well, the hooks are too high to reach to hang it up. And so one solution was, and I wrote it down, Mom will go get hooks and attach someone's lower down. And then when the next meeting comes, we compliment each other, and then we look at the agenda and we review. So let's see, last week or last meeting, we looked at the towels and how is that going? And yes, I've established the hooks and I've noticed that the towels are being hung up now. Thank you. Or it could be, I've noticed we tried the solution that everybody agreed to and it is not working. We're not following through. I think we need another solution. So this solution you guys thought of is off the table. And then we would think of some other ideas. When you're brainstorming solutions too, kids have all kinds of interesting solutions and your job is to write anything and everything that comes up. I remember one time we were just brainstorming ideas about summer and my daughter's like, let's go to Disneyland. And that just kind of came out of the blue. I don't even think we were brainstorming vacations actually, now that I think about it. It was like, anything you want to say? And she said, I want to go to Disneyland. So I wrote it down. I had no money to be able to do that or be able to take off time to do that, but I just wrote it down. And it took several years, but it was in the back of my mind. We kept working towards it, and eventually we did make our way to Disneyland, and it was really wonderful. So you just write it down anyway. When you're solving something simple, like how can we deal with the fact that you guys keep fighting over this toy, and you just write anything and everything of ideas, even if it's just crazy and it's not going to be workable. And then you go back and you look at together as a group. So which ones aren't going to work? So, yeah, this one isn't going to work where you always play with all your toys by yourself. Well, that one's just not reasonable. We all live in this house and we've got to figure out a way to manage sharing these toys. I bought it for both of you. So you would cross that off. And then you just keep going, trying to find one that everybody can say yes to. And you'll just keep circling back because someone will say, I like that idea. And great. And do you like that idea? No, I don't like that idea. Okay, so let's come up with another one. It's not always pretty. It's sometimes messy. I remember my kids would fall apart. My daughter would always end up in tears often because she would hear her brother suggest an idea which she didn't like, and then she would start sobbing because she was so young and she didn't understand that it's just an idea. It doesn't mean we're going to do it. And then sometimes it worked wonderfully. But in the end, when I kept sticking with it, so many problems got solved, particularly between my two kids. We also talked about the morning routine. Like, you know, last time I talked about the routines and getting them set up. So that's the place to go. So how's our morning routine going? We set it all up. It's feeling good to me. How is it feeling good to you? I feel like we're getting out the door on time. Do you feel like I'm nagging you? Or does that feel good? And so it's a place to just reassess how are things going. And it also can be a time to set up routines, and that can be your focus too. Let's see, what else did we do? You can also, you know, the compliments, solve problems from the agenda, and then make decisions about fun things to do. And then end the meeting. It's good to keep it short, 15 minutes max for like older kids and maybe 5 minutes for really, really young kids like preschoolers. We created some rules, like the very first meeting was that everybody talks one at a time. And so you can practice doing that. You can get a talking stick or something like that to practice not everybody talking at once. And then we came up with some simple rules about staying at the table. What else? I forgot what some of my rules were. I remember one of the rules that got added about no humming got added. And that's because it's no distracting humming. That's because somebody, well, I don't remember which child, was always humming in the middle as we tried to talk. So then we talked about as a group, that's not working for me. How about you guys? And like, when can we hum? So then we wrote it down here. No, that's the rules. No distracting humming. I wrote no walking away. I had to add that on. Because we had no hurtful words or sarcasm, which I had to add on sarcasm because my son got really sarcastic. Everybody gets a vote, and consensus rules the vote. And then I wrote no walking away. And I remember one time my son he was like 10 or so, and he just got up and left the table as we were in the middle of deciding something. So then I was feeling this like, ugh, now how am I gonna solve this? He's supposed to be at the table. I really want this to work. I'm supposed to teach this stuff. And I felt the pressure of it. And then then I had a thought and went, I don't have to solve this. This is for us to solve. So I brought him on back and I said, it looks like we got a problem here. Tell me what's going on. And he said, this is boring. How should we make it more interesting then? And it was like, collectively, we need to decide this. It's not me to decide. So luckily we had a big exercise ball in the living room, and he pointed at that and he said, well, can I sit on that during the meeting? And I said, sure, as long as you stay at the meeting. And that was that. I never heard about it again. And he would go and get the ball for the meeting for a while until he moved on to other things. So it was a great lesson for me to remind myself that as the adult, we're not here to solve everything, and that you just put it back. If there's any problem, you just put it back in the middle of the table. Collectively, let's solve this problem together. And in the end, it just got easier and easier. As things came up, we would discuss, work it through, come up with solutions. I got some of the best compliments from my children. Sometimes it was just the regular old, thanks for dinner, thanks for making me dinner, thanks for driving me to my baseball game. But hey, it's nice to be thanked for that. And then sometimes I just got really wonderful ones, or wonderful ones between my kids, that often like to tease and bug each other. So I was grateful that I did that. Let's see, other things I want to say about it. Something else you can do too. It can just be a place to just get out what's bugging you about being in the household, and this could be something you practice as well before you start family meetings. So an idea is doing something called bugs and wishes. Like, everybody gets to say what's bugging you, and if you want, you can even get silly enough and have a prompt. And here's my prop of a bug. And you say, what's bugging you? It's like, it really bugs me when you interrupt me, or it really bugs me when I'm in the middle of watching a show and you make me turn it off, or it really bugs me that you keep leaving your shoes in the middle of the living room. And then you get to do this part, I wish. It bugs me that you leave your shoes in the middle of the living room, and I wish you would put them to the side. And here's my thing. Come on, come on. Oh, there it goes. So this is always fun to play with. It doesn't mean that the problem's necessarily going to get solved, but it's sometimes a place to be able to just complain a bit. And then maybe the person will say, okay, I'll try to remember to put them to the side. And so we can do bugs and wishes. You can also, instead of sharing a compliment for each other, you can switch it up. Remember, we really want mistakes to be valued, so it's great to bring it to the family meetings and say, who made a mistake today and what did they learn from it? And then you as the adult start off by saying, I made a big mistake today, let me share. And it could be something at work, or it doesn't have to be with parenting. And then share what you learned from it. So it's just another, switching it up things. You don't always have to do the exact same structure every time. There will be a tip sheet too that I'm going to attach that takes you through all this stuff that I'm talking you through. I'm trying to think of some other pointers I want to make sure I mention. I just want to encourage you to take the step, that it ends up being really wonderful, even if it's just you and one other child, that you take the time to have a shared moment together, a shared meal together, eye contact together, compliment each other, share something about the day that went well, share a compliment, and then just assess, how are we doing in the household? How are we doing with this? This is the problem, and how can we work on it? And what great training your kids will get to go out into the world and then be part of a team, which they most likely will be in the working world, and have experienced a healthy problem-solving type situations. Meetings are, famously run terribly. So it's nice to give them exposure to how a well-run meeting goes. And it's actually a good thing to be able to just vent. And sometimes venting is all that's needed. Like when my kids, I remember a particular time they were mad, and my son just wanted to tell his sister, like, well, that makes me mad. And I was in his ear coaching, because, and then he said, because blah, blah, blah. And I wish, I would whisper in his ear, and I wish you would blah, blah, blah. I don't remember what it was. And then I said, so shall we solve that? And I was getting out my writing paper, and he's like, nah, I'm good. And so I'm like, okay. I'd let it go, because their relationship is their relationship, and I'm not going to get in the middle of it and decide, no, we've got to hash this out. I let it go because they wanted to let it go. So it's all interesting how it can fulfill so many needs. It just pulls so many things together for the household. I know I'm going to forget something. I don't know. But anyway, feel free to email me if you have any more questions. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. And I will get this sent off to you hopefully soon. And take care, everybody. I hope you're all sheltering in place okay. It's kind of a hot house to have family members in the house all the time around each other. So lots of opportunity to problem solve together. And hopefully that you're experiencing lots of connection time that you've never had before, so you don't have to feel guilty about missing doing this or that, because that's not an option. So take advantage of this time. All right, I'm signing off. Take care, everybody.